Well, as fans continue to mourn Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and the 7 other victims, investigators continue to look for answers in the helicopter crash and what may have caused it. Aviation attorney and military pilot Bryant Alexander joined us earlier this morning to give us some valuable insight into what may have caused this crash. Here's part of his conversation with CBSN LA's Hermela Aragawi.
Bryant, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So with what we know about this crash, the weather conditions being foggy, the request for the special visual flight rule, what could have happened here?
Well, I think as was stated by the National Transportation Safety Board yesterday, all of the early indications are that there's the combination of weather, deteriorating weather conditions in and around the Calabasas area at the time the aircraft was trying to transition through that area, combined with the possibility of the pilot in making some quick decisions relative to that deteriorating weather, perhaps becoming disoriented during the flight, which in combination may have led to the crash.
So how does that happen? Before they even left John Wayne Airport, what could have been possibly discussed? What are the rules for helicopters versus maybe commercial planes?
So that's a good question. A lot of people don't realize, although it sort of makes sense, the rules for helicopters are significantly different than they are for a fixed-wing aircraft. And they are given a greater degree of license to operate in more marginal weather conditions with respect to the visibility requirements and the cloud cover requirements. So in this particular case, it seems like the weather may have been okay when they departed. The pilot should have known that there was an expectation of some deteriorating weather conditions and fog along the route of flight. But that's something that, again, your requirement as a helicopter pilot is to simply stay clear of clouds once you're on the special VFR rules, which is to maintain clear of clouds at all times and obviously stay away from terrain and stay in communication with air traffic control as it relates to other aircraft in that same vicinity.
So why are the rules different for helicopters?
I think it's a recognition that a helicopter is much more controllable and able to respond and fly in a manner that would enable them to stay clear of clouds and operate in the condition less than the typical required or more ideal visual conditions that would be faced as compared to an airplane. It's one of those things where the rule exists and oftentimes it's complied with without a problem, but it is sort of a more a dangerous potential situation when you're not sure of every piece of weather in front of you or how quickly that weather condition might change. It can be a problem, so you have to be prepared for that.
I would love to hear more from you about this special visual flight rule. What is it? When is it used? And what are the downsides of using it?
So it's, as I mentioned, it's a regulations that allow for a pilot in an aircraft, fixed wing or helicopter, to operate when the conditions, the weather conditions, are not VFR. VFR is, visual flight rules, and you have to, meet certain in certain airspace. You have certain visibility and cloud cover requirements. Something like a 1,000-foot ceiling and a couple miles visibility may be the typical requirement. In this case, special VFR for helicopters, significantly, allows you to operate, and the only requirement for all intents and purposes is to be communicating with air traffic control in the airspace, which was happening here, and then remaining clear of clouds. There's no limitation upon about your altitude unless the controller gives it to you, and in this case, that was simply to remain below 2,500 feet. And otherwise, as long as you can stay clear of clouds and operate the aircraft, you are able to do so as a helicopter under special VFR rules.
So does it sound like he wasn't able to avoid the clouds, based on what you know?
It does. The NTSB shared that there was a call seeking to climb up into the clouds towards the end of the flight. That combined, and it did in fact climb up to, I believe, about 2,300 feet. Thereafter, there was a turn. The possibility is that The aircraft was by then already into and climbing through the clouds. And that's where you get into the second part, again, just as a possibility of some spatial disorientation, which may have then led to a loss of aircraft control and the flight into terrain.
All right. Well, Brian, the NTSB is in Calabasas investigating. We're looking forward to get more information about that. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.